Game.
All right. Welcome everybody to the Legendaddy podcast, episode 3. Um, as with me today, as always, my guest and my guest co-host and wonderful, best friend, AIDS. AIDS, say hello to everybody.
Hello. Hi.
Let's
Kamusta?
go.
Kamusta
Kamusta,
mga
pare?
legends? Kamusta? Okay naman. Okay naman.
All right.
Nice to be
So,
here. Nice to be here. Thank
thanks
you.
for joining me, bro.
Of course.
Um, yeah, so first 3 episodes, di ba? Mukhang tayo na yung Batman and Robin dito.
Correct.
Um, yeah, so for today, I wanted to have this topic about in keeping with the Valentine's theme. Um, we all just celebrated Valentine's this last Wednesday, and I think um, while it's still fresh, we can all we can at least two of us can have a conversation. Not really about love, but more about love in general. But specifically, I think how we maintain and keep the love alive in our marriages. And how that, because it looks different for everybody. I think, well, here at home personally, like um I have a much more flexible schedule than my wife, and um it's so the sharing of responsibilities are quite different. I imagine it's a very different scenario with you, diba? Your wife is the one who is leading the charge in your startup, and you have a corporate job, and so that's so and I think it'll, and for some of the legends out there, I'm sure they'll have different. Everybody will have their own different setup na rin, diba? Usually somebody's in a corporate job, the other one's nagnenegosyo or nagbe-business or kung ano man, di ba? Or minsan housewife, minsan house husband, di ba? Houseband or or so and I think the universal thread through all of that is that um everybody finds a way to make their situation work, and when they just let things play out without addressing or parang tackling the issue of how to make it work. I think that's how most relationships parang get into trouble. What do you think about that?
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, when you mentioned that earlier, easier said than done, as you know, right? It's different for each and every one of us. But um, I think later on, one of the things that we need to discuss is that we have all our own, I guess, unique ways of addressing it. What's important is that you're trying to address it, right? And trying to make sure that the love is always there, regardless of the situation, whether you're the one that has a full-time job or vice versa, right? I think what's important is that you adjust based on your specific case. And I think recently when we had an office meeting, I actually got this good takeout. Don't forget to over communicate because sometimes, di ba, when
Wow.
it's like what do you call this? It's like a routine already. It's like parang you already know what to expect, and because of that, you don't really communicate anymore, and maybe you forget, diba? That those little things actually are the ones that will help you move forward or make it easier for the both of you, because it's always a two-way street, right? So both parties need to do their part for it to work, and especially itong Valentine's Day. At least for me personally, it was really hectic. To be honest, we didn't celebrate it. It
Yeah.
was just here in the house, quick dinner, and then we're like both out because we were so tired already. But the point is, I found time to celebrate it, even though it wasn't like the ideal setup compared to previous years. But that was it. But we're happy with that, and maybe next year, hopefully, things would be a bit different, and maybe we could celebrate a little bit better. But yeah, I think that's at least from what happened, at least personally. there's a Valentine's dating last week. So there.
Well, I think so. I found a kind of a jump off point. I think that we can have a really nice conversation there. Um, the you said you found time, no, to make it happen, and I think a lot of us, myself included, no, and this really happened. This happened. This was very apparent during the pandemic, where you uh had to be like very intentional about making time, not finding time. Because when you say you find time, you parang, oh, uy, may extra, 'di ba? Parang, oh, 'di ba? Parang nakapulot ka, 'di ba? Na but iba yung your okay, Friday night, every third and or every first and third Friday of the month, date night, 'di ba? Or
Right.
then, or every Saturday, meron tayong movie night, ganyan. Or and you can be intentional about. I think you have kind of have to be intentional. Of course, there are seasons where it's just it's impossible. Like you're too busy. You have you have time. You're tasked with 15 things and you only get five done, diba? And uh, it's really really difficult uh to pay attention to anything else outside of that. Now, of course, um, it's not ideal, no. Pero I think one of the things that really like I think I try to work on is to be really intentional with my time, especially not it's not family, it's really with my wife. Parang I want to be a lot more intentional in making time for her, and uh making sure that we have time to get, because kids will just, especially when they're young, they'll swallow up all your time if they can. And not to mention work, not to mention things that need to be done around the house, not to mention the things that, everything else the world will demand of you. I think there's a there's a need to be intentional about um, making time for each other, whether that's 20 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes a week. I think it's important, really important.
Yeah, when I actually like that, graphic, because when you said intentional, parang again, um, connecting it with my corporate job, no, you kind of block it off on your calendar already.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Tama, tama, tama.
Di ba? Parang binablock off mo na yan, no? Let's say may meeting ka with the boss, oh, sorry, all other meetings, hindi mo na matutuloy, di ba? Ito yung priority meetings, right? So parang same thing with the wife, like what you're saying, right? Hindi dapat yung, like what you said, na, dahil may extra time, sige na lang, go na natin. Pero if you intentionally plan to have it, let's say nga, the first or third Friday of the month, then naka-block off na yun, di ba? So kung let's say may mag-invite sa'yo, na friends mo or family or relatives, di ba, for that particular occasion, if hindi naman ganun ka-important, maybe you can always, say na, maybe next time na lang kasi I have this, scheduled.
Right.
So I think that's good, no? And yeah, it's also parang, I guess, a mindset thing din between the two of you, di ba? Na you really both try to find that time for each other. And syempre, once you find that time, dapat talaga as much as possible din, focus, di ba? Hindi naman pwedeng,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
di
Yeah.
ba?
You're
I
tuned
mean,
in, no?
kinedule mo, kasi parang feeling ko, minsan, guilty rin ako about it eh. Kinedule mo na siya, okay, so nandun na kayo, and yet your brain is somewhere else because you're thinking about, I don't know, work or
Right,
thinking about, I don't know, a game tomorrow or something like that.
right.
Anything, di ba? So, parang hindi rin naman fair yun. And I think that shows, di ba? So, ako guilty ako. I think nangyari yun a couple of times na parang my head was somewhere else, even if I was physically there. So, I think moving forward, learning din yun na pag if you find time and when you're there, dapat you make sure that yung focus mo rin is like with your partner, di ba? With your
Yeah,
spouse, no? 100%. Kasi kung hindi, parang sayang din, di ba? Parang you reserve the time, and then yung headspace mo naman is not there, and I'm sure it will be seen, di ba? Magiging transparent naman how it is, di ba? So, ayun din, siguro yun yung ma-add ko on that, na parang aside from setting the time, making sure that you're there,
Yeah,
physically,
no,
mentally there.
that's really
So,
good. That's really good input. What a waste naman na parang, 'di ba, you go out of you make the plans, make the reservations, buy the tickets, buy the whatever.
yeah.
You're at dinner and you're just,
Looking at your phone or whatever, di
like
ba?
responding to
Parang,
email or talking to
exactly.
someone else, 'di ba? Parang
Again, not easy, but,
not easy, not easy. I'm definitely guilty of that. And if I catch myself, usually I'm mad at myself kasi parang fuck am I doing? Like, 'di ba? Parang supposed to be here now. Pay attention to this, 'di ba? And
correct,
that's
correct.
that's so hard to do sometimes. Sobrang sobrang guilty ako diyan. Ang hirap niyan.
Mahirap, mahirap. Pero again, we always start naman brand new, di ba? So next time, maybe let's keep that in
Right.
mind. Let's try.
Yeah, no, and actually, one thing that I started to practice, and parang so I don't think it's any secret to anybody who follows like my social media. I'm a big Jordan Peterson fan, no? And he has such a breadth of um, knowledge when he talks about relationships and marriage and all of that. And one of the things that I usually address, especially post like after the date, no, if I knew I did something wrong, parang I ask for I ask parang, hey, I'm sorry if I was like this. Not trying to make excuses for it, but parang I hope you can give me parang the grace to parang do this wrongly, or do this make mistakes so that I can so so that I can learn to not do them anymore, or to learn how to do this better in the future. How to I think to be able to just admit to yourself that parang, oh, mali yan. Parang,
Right,
and
right.
call it out and make sure that your spouse knows, that you made a mistake, and you're working on it, so that you're not stupid. You don't continue your stupidity um for the rest of your life, 'di ba? Parang if you don't acknowledge it, then it doesn't get it. If you don't address it, then it doesn't get, like with anything in life, 'di ba? If you don't acknowledge, if you don't address, then it means you tolerate it and you accept it, 'di ba? What you don't address, you tolerate, and what you tolerate, you choose, basically, 'di ba? You
Yeah.
make that choice to be that way. And one of the things na wanted to bring up, no, marriage is such a difficult endeavor, I think, and it's a full-time commitment. It's so hard to get right. And people think, single people, single people will think it's once you get married, that's it, diba? Parang happily ever after and all of that, and which is so far from the truth. Na okay, actually, when you get married, that's when the real work begins. I think that's where parang you come face to face with um every day. Sorry, every day. Someone is gonna be looking at you and uh be observing like your uh your honesty, your thoughtfulness, your generosity, your are you paying attention? Are you, you know, and you're parang you feel like uh you're under the microscope also. But at the same time, you're also um doing that to them. And to expect anybody to get that right for any amount of time, I think is setting yourself up parang for failure, diba? Parang we have to allow each other, we have to allow our wives to be make mistakes and be imperfect, and because we're definitely far from perfect ourselves. What can you say about that train of thought?
Yeah, I mean that's well, number one. It's this topic is like really, brings back a lot of memories, no? Especially when um the first couple of years of marriage. So yun nga, like what you said, di ba? Parang ano pa yan, fun pa, di ba? But as time goes by, di ba? Syempre, different phases na comes in, di ba? You become like a parent, for example, number one, and you go into different careers or at least tackle different challenges together. So in terms of how you think about, before it was always me, and now it's we, right? When
Mm,
it's we now, parang you always have to consider the other party every single time as much as possible.
mm-hmm.
You just can't make decisions for yourself because whatever you decide on will obviously affect the other one and vice versa, right? So
Correct.
medyo mas take a bit more time in terms of thinking about things or deciding what to do or anything like that because definitely it will impact the both of you, diba? Whether you like it or not, right?
Right.
Because you guys are married, right? You live under the same roof. But I think also maybe I just want to add that I always remember this because when I was a bit younger, parang when you're in a relationship, it's always important about that you try to, give your partner as much support, etc., love and care. But I also remember telling my younger self this, and up to now, no, parang it's also important then to not forget to take care of yourself then as well. Number one, right?
Yes.
Because sabi nga lang, it sounds cheesy na parang, oh, if you don't love yourself, you can't love your partner. But in reality, that's true, di ba?
That's very true.
If you don't, love yourself, prioritize things that you need as well, diba? Physically, mentally,
Yeah.
etc., then how can you be the best version of yourself to that part and, be able to provide, the best possible, solutions or things that you can work on together if you're not in your best frame of mind or
Right.
physical. So, parang, I think, siguro a bit lang, no? Parang maging selfish ka sometimes to make sure that you're okay first para when you tackle challenges together, parang you can give the best version of yourself as well, di ba?
Oh,
Mabigay mo talaga
that's
yung lahat mo.
really good. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think self-care is a form of, it's a form of, you can say that parang self-care is a form of love. It's a form of parang let me, because there's so parang in marriage parang 'di ba we take a covenant where whatever happens, there's no, wala nang alisan to, 'di ba? Parang you don't get to back out, I don't get to back out. And it's on us to take care of each other and take care of ourselves. That's a really important, that's a really important point that that you made, no? Um and have I don't think I'll be able to have the bandwidth to be able to take care of someone else if I'm in no shape to take care of myself. 'Di ba?
correct.
Kung talagang 'di ba kung if I'm drinking every night, if I'm, if I'm not, if I'm not, I'm not working, I'm not, I'm just playing video games all day, or I'm just watching YouTube videos all day and not really doing, not being a productive or a responsible and productive member of this household, then pabigat lang ako, 'di ba? Parang and that's really super unfair, 'di ba? And sometimes uh wives will be able to smell that on you and develop, dyan nagsisimula, at least from what I've been able to see in other relationships, like resentment, bitterness, na parang wala naman yung ginagawa, baka, 'di ba? Ako lang yung nagtatrabaho, ako lang yung naggaganon, and that's where, 'di ba? 'Di ba?
Yeah.
Dami tayo kilalang ganyan.
Yeah.
And
Unfortunately, yes. Meron talaga.
unfortunately, yeah. And and yeah, so taking care of ourselves, mentally, physically, financially, spiritually, um even being able to, I think, lead and be a good example, is also part of that. Honestly, I never saw myself, so one of the things that I'm really bad at is leadership, as I think you can already tell, no? This podcast is supposed to be once a week, and we've managed to do three, and it's already mid it's already mid February. So one of the things I'm really horrible at is leadership. And as the legend daddy, as the daddy, you are also, um you are also parang called to lead your family. And so, and that is something, honestly, I really do struggle with. Uh I struggle because I it's not that I don't want the responsibility. That's not It's sometimes it's hard to figure out how, because there's so many things to do. And if I guess, to drive it back to what our main topic is, if you don't have your wife on your side, and she's not with you to kind of watch your six, or pick up the slack, or help you lead and carry that responsibility, that's another source of parang bitterness, resentment, anger, and a lot of that. And yeah, to go back lang dun sa ano mo, dun sa first point that you, and I'm gonna get this tattooed on my forehead. Don't forget to over communicate. That's such a good message. I think we should be, and can be and should be intentional about how we want to show love, and how to accept love. I think we can. There's a podcast that I watched, and maybe I'll link it in the description below. No, but there's this pastor John Deloney who I follow on IG, and he's a very big fan of over communicating to the point na he takes out. He's a big guy who he's a guy who takes out the guesswork on marriage, na parang, uh how there's this myth that's being peddled around, where um you're once you've been together for X amount of time, you should know already that your wife needs like this, and you should be able to predict that she's like this and needs this and that, which is not true. Like, it's um and ako, and and that's the mind reading thing, 'di ba? Yun yung parang dapat alam mo na yan, yung mga di mo pa ba alam? So those words are actually, thankfully, pinagbabawal na namin yan sa bahay na to, no. And if there's something I'd like you guys to, uh let me know, maybe in the comments, what your style is, no, on this. But for me what works, what has worked the best is to be intentional. Be intentional about, hey, you know what? I had a bad day. Can I get a hug? Can I get 10 minutes? Can I just unload right now? Can I, just I need something. Yung ganun ba? Yung and it's been a way to tell her specifically what I need, and wala na yung and I hit two birds with one stone. I tell her what I need, and I don't develop any kind of resentment or, parang bakit hindi mo pa ba alam tong feelings.
Correct, correct. And siguro just to add lang that, di ba? Kasi sometimes when we have mga, I guess, disagreements or arguments,
Always.
parang ang focus is, parang dapat malaman kung sinong tama, di ba?
Yes.
Pero if you think about it, dapat wag ka mag-focus doon eh. Learning din yun eh. Parang just hear them out, di ba?
Yeah.
You hear them out, you say your piece as well. And kung you don't necessarily have to agree on during that point in time, at least you're able to let it out. Di ba? Nalabas mo. Mahirap yung, I always think na mahirap yung natatago, tapos naiipon, tapos sasabog. Di
Naiipon.
ba?
Yun. Yeah,
Di
that's
ba?
the
Kasi yun yung scare, I think yun yung scariest. And again, we've heard stories na parang ganun na dahil hindi nga sila nag-uusap, naipon na lang na naipon, and then dumating na sa point na obstinate na, di ba?
yeah.
So, better na siguro na ilabas na. Again, doesn't have to be parang, oh, I won today, it's tama ako versus my wife or vice versa. Kasi kung ganun, para lang kayo nagtatali, di ba? Hindi naman yung padamihan eh. At then they, you both lose or you both win, di ba?
Nobody
So,
wins. Actually, nobody wins. Like if you think like yeah, Jordan speaks about this. Parang if your aim is to win the argument. Parang okay, say that you do. Great. So you win. So that makes your wife a loser. Or let's even baliktarin natin. Let's say she wins, right? She wins. So what? Loser ka. And what if she always wins? De lagi kang loser. So, paano? Or kung lagi naman siya yung loser, paano? Trip mo 'yon? Married ka sa loser? Parang what's there the, there's no winning. There's no it in the moment might it might feel good for you to get a win, but in the end, parang you're gonna who wants to be married to a loser, diba? Who respects being married to a loser? Nobody, diba? Nobody wants that. Sino may gusto nun? So, the better solution, at least in my point of view, is never argue to win. It's always try to find your way to peace. Like what does the off ramp look like for us here? What's a peaceful solution where you get what you want, I get what I want, or maybe we both decide on something else, so that we don't have to keep stupidly fighting over this again and again and again and again and again, diba? Because one thing also that keeps popping up is it's the same fight over and over and over and over again, because you're not really you're not really facing the problem head on. You're just trying to score points against each other, and you're not really looking for a solution. You're just looking to win. And when you're looking to win, that creates all sorts of problems, for you and your wife, in the short and in the long term.
correct. Kasi di ba parang, sip mo, yung word na win, parang it's you against a competitor. Di ba?
Right? Yeah, it's
It's
competition.
like
Yeah,
competition, di ba? Like, if you want to win, it means you're beating somebody else, right?
yeah.
Eh, di ba, pag kinasal ka, you're supposed to be a team, di ba? You're supposed to
Yes.
be together. So, win together, lose together. So, parang, yun nga, kung yung mindset nga really is to, always, tama ako, gusto ko tama ako parati, or ayoko masyadong mali. Parang, doon pa lang, mindset, di ba? Parang, you're competing against your wife already, which I think is not good or not healthy. Again, maybe our ano can agree or disagree with us, but
Right.
pag ganun yung mindset, di ba? Parang, so yun nga, ano na lang ba ang basehan ng araw-araw na usapan? Sinong mas tama? Di ba? So, kung happy ka sa ganun, then so be it. But I think for us naman, it's not really that because again, you go through this life together. And if you decide na you want to win, then don't get married.
I think, yo, wow,
Mag-isa ka na lang. Pwede naman, di ba? Pwede
that's
naman.
good
Kasi gusto mo na
advice.
naman manalo, eh di kalabanin mo na lang lahat. Or
Gusto mo ikaw lang ang panalo, wag ka naman
ikaw lang,
mag-asawa, my
wag ka
friend.
lang mag-asawa, wag ka naman dami na iba, di ba? So
Yeah,
ikaw na lang mag-isa. Again, wala rin masama doon.
right.
Kanya-kanya lang yun. But at least for
Kanya-kanya.
those that, plan to do, go through this journey together with your wife, then syempre obviously you want to win together. Mas masaya yun, di ba? And when you
Yeah,
win together, you
that's a good point.
celebrate,
You want to win
celebrate,
together.
di ba? You win together, you
Win
celebrate
together.
together. That's saya nun, di ba?
I
Parang,
love that. I love
that's
that.
like I mean, no matter how small, no matter how big, di ba? When you win together, iba level, di ba? Like, for example, sa amin, at least for the startup, when we got our grant, parang it was like, after how many years of parang wala masyadong mga wins, diba? And all of a sudden, as a couple, we have something. Oh my God, kaya pa pala natin at this age. So, those things ay mga big milestones. And if you did it together, despite all of the challenges, struggles, arguments, whatever you want to call it, diba? Pag
Right.
nakuha nyo na yun, parang, oh wow, we can still do this. And ang sarap ng feeling.
Yeah.
Parang nasa different level of high and you actually look forward to the next, di ba? Kahit
Right.
alam mong maaring marami naman challenges or struggles, but ang sarap ng feeling eh. Kasi, I mean, you did it together na, di ba? You went through this journey together. Hindi lang hiwalay, di ba? Hindi lang, oh, ito yung career mo, ito yung career ko, pero tayong happy. Hindi, we did this together.
Together. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. That's really nice. One of the things I also wanted to uh bring up here is, so yeah, this is the love episode, no, the love episode. Um, I've always held it in my mind. One of the core parang principles I have, and I parrot this at least once a month in the group, is that, in order to be a good father, parang you have to be a good husband. Um, because I think, and I don't think this gets said enough. Like, your kids are always watching you. Your kids are always observing. They're always uh they see how you treat they see how you treat their mom, right? If they're boys, then they learn how they will be treating their partners or their wives in the future. And if they're girls, like, you set the standard of what love will look like for them down the road, diba? Does dad, will my husband, like, provide? Will he be responsible? Will he keep his vices in check? Diba? Parang, is he a piece of shit, diba? Is he, you know
Yeah. Yeah.
sorry, dude. But um I think that some people get too focused on parenting, on being like this really um good parent who's always there, and then forsaking their relationship with their spouse. I like, and it's such a common mistake in my eyes. Like, and I think, if there's anybody, out there who thinks they should be putting their children first, I want to remind you that your relationship with your children will be forever. And but there will come a day where they will leave the nest, and you gotta make sure that the person you are sharing your bed with still knows you, still still has an idea of who you are. And because if you leave that part of the it's so sad. I've seen um, with relatives, with friends, yung mga napapabayaan, tapos bigla na ng pag, naghihiwalay na kasi they don't know how to be together anymore. They don't know how, there's no, yung mga we grew apart, not really. Like, in my opinion, like, you really didn't just, you didn't take care of it, right? You put so many other things first in front of it, where it was line item 15 on the top, on and you only get five things done every day. So just to circle it back, parang keep your be intentional about your marriage, be intentional about being a good person to your wife, because you are setting that standard for what love will look like for your children. Like, are you showy? Are you maalaga? Are you the type who is more independent? Whatever it is, whatever that looks like, just be cognizant that your children are watching you, and they will interpret what love will look like. So I was very lucky because my parents stayed together, um, for better or for worse, like through sickness and in health. Talagang they stuck together. They had their relationship wasn't perfect, right? No relationship no relationship is and will ever be, right? They had their shortcomings to each other, but I can say I have a pretty healthy relationship. I have a pretty healthy view of what love looks like, because my parents really showed me, that they loved each other, respected each other, took care of one another, shared responsibilities, knew how to communicate. Like, these were so many good things that I learned from my parents, and that is our responsibility, like to our kids. Like, even in conflict resolution, like, it's not. I don't know. Tell me how you feel about this, AIDS. It's not na hindi kayo nag-aaway. It is, marunong ba kayo makipagbate sa isa't isa sa harap ng mga bata. Imagine, it's not, uh, for me, maybe fighting in front of your kids. Of course, don't do that intentionally. But hindi naiiwasan, di ba? Because syempre in the heat of the moment, and but can you resolve conflict in real time in front of your children and show them that you can do that? Be adults about it and show them that you can do that. I think that's a great skill to learn and impart on your kids.
Yeah, I think for that one, at least from our end, syempre again, nangyayari minsan yung mga conflicts na yan, di ba? Hindi iniiwasan sa harap ng anak, right? In terms of, minsan nare-resolve na, minsan hindi. Kasi pag sobrang init, you really can't expect, di ba? During that moment na para, oh, let's all sit down. Syempre, it's better just, take your time, cool off a bit. So, I
Right.
think, ako personally, wala pa kami doon sa parang ganung level. Kasi syempre, bata pa yung anak, di ba? And as much
Yeah.
as possible, gusto mo lang itigil mo na yung tension,
Right.
right? And then pag okay
Diffuse.
na, pag
Naka-diffuse.
pag okay na, di tawagin mo lang together and then show na, or mom and dad,
We're
we're okay
okay.
na. But
Mm.
I think nandun pa lang naman kami. But yeah, that's a
Mm.
good point. Maybe moving forward na pag let's say medyo naging mas matanda na and hopefully understands a bit more, I guess mas
Right.
mature na, no? So baka mas pwede na. Siguro ano lang, just to ano lang din, no? Parang kasi nga, di ba, we're talking about, love and all that. It's important to always think na before we became legend daddies and all that, we're supposed to be legend husbands, di ba?
Yeah.
Kasi,
Yes.
di ba, I mean, alam ko legend daddy yung group natin. So pag daddy, syempre inisip mo agad, anak di ba? Kasi
Right.
dad, son, daughter, whatever, right? But yun nga for you to become a true legend daddy, you should be a legend husband or a legend spouse. So know your priorities kasi nga kung hindi rin natin alam yun, baka makalimutan natin who we really are and what we're supposed to be to give the best, obviously, to our families. First and foremost, the wife, diba? The spouse.
Mm.
Like what Rafa said, so sila talaga yung makasama na until, our last breath, diba? Sila talaga yan. Our kids will always be there, but like us, diba? When we leave the nest, diba? Iba na rin priority natin, diba? Priority natin,
Yeah.
asawa natin, and vice versa. It's gonna happen, whether we like
Gonna
it or
happen.
not. It's gonna happen, right? Kasi tayo yun ngayon eh. Tayo yung umalis sa nest, tayo meron na tayong pamilya. So, let's just be mindful of that one in terms of priorities din, diba? They're all important, but syempre, you also want to make sure that the wife is number one, diba?
Yes.
At least in our eyes. So, yeah.
Nice. All right. I think that's a nice way to wrap up today. AIDS, I want to say thank you, man. Thanks you for always showing up for me.
Of
Thank you
course.
for joining me in doing this. And happy Valentine's to you, my brother. Send my love to send
Happy V-Date.
my love to
Belated na belated.
belated.
Belated. Belated
Send my
na
love
to
to
all
Chris.
the legends out there and
Yeah, and to all
spouses. Yeah.
legends out there, like I hope you guys picked up something um, that you can use for your own relationships here today. And if you have your own take, please leave in the comments. I love reading them. Show your support. Like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you all again next week. Thank you, everyone. This is the Legendaddy Podcast, episode 3. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye bye.